Welcome to episode 37 of the Twig Snapper Podcast. Today, my guest is Jeff Zehr. How's it going today, Jeff?
I'm doing well, thanks, Alex.
Yeah, of course. Well, let's just dive right in. I think there's a lot to talk about, so we might as well start. You were an OHL guy. You were drafted by the Islanders, but then you signed as a free agent with the Bruins organization, and you played with the Providence Bruins in 1999, 2000. So we might as well start there with your time there in the AHL.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, I was a first round OHL pick. Played 4 years in the O, and then was 31st overall by the Islanders. Didn't come to terms with them. Fucking Mike Milbury, but whatever. And ended up becoming a free agent. I signed 3 days into free agency with the Bruins, and I actually went to Boston that summer of '99 and did some training and working out and rehab on my knee because I hurt my knee my last year of junior, and then started the year in Providence in the A under Peter Laviolette was my coach, and the first month and a half, I did a lot of just training, practicing, and bag skates after. Didn't get into the lineup very much because my knee was still wonky. Played my first AHL game late November and had a big fight against Kirby Law, who was a 40 goal scorer, 200 PIM guy for Florida's farm team at the time. And I had a couple of my buddies from my hometown down, and we went out for some drinks, obviously, and have a good time after the game. And the next day I went down to the rink to sweat it out and get a skate and a workout in, and Lavi called me into the coach's office and asked how I was feeling. I said, oh, the knee's pretty good, feel pretty good, had a good first pro game. And he stood up and stuck his hand out and said, good job, kid. You're getting called up. You're playing tonight with Boston. I was like, shut the front door, you know. And I played one game and I got called up. And next thing I know, for the next week or 10 days, whatever it was, I was up in Boston. I played 4 games there.
So, did you get sent back down, or did you stay up with Boston and then how did that work? Because I know you played like 12 games with the AHL club. So did you go up for that week and then come back down?
Yeah, so I went. Sorry about that. I went up. I played 4 games up with Boston, and then after the 4th game, I don't know, it was a day or two later, we were in practice, and I got yanked halfway through practice by Pat Burns, and he just said, you know, for a rookie and, you know, only playing 1 AHL game and getting called up in 4 games, and he liked the way I played, but it was December. It was about mid-December at this point. Started December, actually. First week, whatever. And he was just like, you know, you're a rookie. You got to get more ice time and play. So sending you back down. Keep plugging away, and, you know, hopefully we'll get you back up. And then I went back down, played basically 11 games in the month of December, and our last optional skate before Christmas break, I was spinning with the puck around Nick Boyton, and my skate got cut in a rut, and I blew my knee out, and that was pretty much it for the next basically 2 years.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to that knee injury, but going back to your time with the Bruins, there were some big name guys on that Bruins roster. I mean, reading it off, it sounds like I'm reading off an all-star name, you know, roster. You got Jumbo Joe, Ray Bork, Anson Carter, Dave Andrechuk, Don Sweeney, Sergei Samsonov. Just, I mean, obviously phenomenal freaking hockey players. Yeah. Did you have much interaction with any of those guys in your limited time up?
Yeah. So Joe and I knew each other obviously from junior. Used to fight each other a lot, battled hard, all that kind of stuff. My stall was in between Thornton and Samsonoff. And we were all like, I think Joe was first overall, Samsonoff was 8th, and I was 31st in that draft. So between our three stalls, it was 3 high forward draft picks, right, from the 97 draft, which is kind of cool. But yeah, Ray Bork was the first guy that welcomed me to the room and the team when I walked in. Don Sweeney, I went to a movie with, Andrew Chuck and Landon Wilson and Carter, and there's a bunch of guys on the road in Nashville. I went out for supper and a couple beers, that kind of stuff. Johnny Graham, he was in Providence at the time when I was up. We had Byron Defoe and Rob Tallis were the goalies up that year when I played up there.
Okay, yeah, I've got actually John Graham coming on the podcast next week. We've got a date scheduled, so I'm looking forward to that one too.
Yeah, Grammer. So my stint with him was brief because he pretty much dominated in the AHL the year or two before. Providence won the Calder Cup, all that kind of stuff, and then I came in, and like I said, I only played 12 games, but we got to hang out. I got to hang out with him and some of the other older core guys like Aaron Downey and Brandon Smith and his kind of clique or whatever. Boyden and I were a couple of young guys on the team down in Providence. So, we tried to hang with the big boys or the AHL champs as it was back then.
Yeah. So you said you knew Jumbo before, and he seems, just like from a fan's perspective, like an absolute beauty, just the character of a guy. Do you have any good Jumbo stories?
Oh, I've like I said, junior, we used to battle a lot in junior B and junior A. And then, once you turn pro, your off seasons, you might run into each other at like a charity golf tournament, softball, or like up here we do like pig roasts and any kind of event that you can get 50 of your boys around and drink some beer and have some fun. So I've had a few parties with him and all that kind of stuff over the course of my 3-year contract with Boston that I had. We hung out a couple times. We went to the Ryder Cup that was there, the big golf tournament. When Phil Mickelson won it on the 18th, we got special passes for that. I think Bork hooked us up with a bunch of passes, but obviously you're off season. You see each other, hang out a little bit more than during the season. Plus we were like 21 years old, I think, back when, we were breaking into the league. He was obviously up there for a year or two before I got there. But being young guys, you have a little bit, we didn't really have, we weren't established. We weren't 5-10 year vet guys with houses and wives and kids and all that kind of stuff at the time, even though I had a kid, but I wasn't married and all that. So.
Right. So I was going to ask you, but I already got the answer. Like when you were up in Boston, because when I was doing my research, I noticed that in February of 2000, that's when there was the Marty McSorley, Donald Brashear incident. But obviously you weren't up for that because you went back down and then you got hurt. But, you were around hockey up in the pros, around that time. And that was a pretty big incident.
Yeah. No, I remember, I can't remember where I was exactly when it happened, but I know, Marty, I want to say, I don't think that he meant to 100% hit him straight in the head like he did. And, he zonked him pretty good, and it was an ugly scene, and you don't really want to see all that ever in any league. And especially like coming from a warrior like Marty, he was tough as shit.
Right, definitely. Just, your temper gets flared and you do something stupid, and then the shit hits the fan, pretty much.
Yeah.
no other way to put it. So you blew out your knee, and that kind of seemed to be the end of your time up in the AHL. So, what was the recovery like for you? Was it tough going through that and then trying to get back in a groove?
For sure. So I had basically I had a surgery that I think Sergio Momesso is the only other hockey player to ever have the same surgery that I had. So what they did is they underneath your kneecap, your patellar tendon runs over top of your kneecap and attaches to like your tibia and fibia and all that kind of stuff. So your bone's underneath your kneecap. So basically they cut off my bone an inch and a half, 2 inches, and moved it inside, moved it in half an inch, and then screwed it back in to my leg. Because I kept having dislocation problems, so my kneecap kept popping out all the time, and every time it popped out, I broke more bone chips off underneath and cartilage and all that kind of stuff. And then they leave a gap in between the bone that they cut off and the bone that they screwed it back onto. So basically, my quads and hamstring and everything atrophied so much. I lost so much muscle that my calf muscle was bigger than my quad. The leg surgery and rehab sucked. It was very slow. Basically had to learn to walk again and then run and then, balance and movement and then skate and then all that kind of stuff, building up the muscle, trying to get it somewhat closer back. Meanwhile, having like no cartilage, I'm bone on bone. I was bone on bone for the rest of my career. So, constant knee swells and pain and, my meniscus folded and tore so many times, just basically grinding and mucking it out.
Yeah, definitely. Wow.
It was pretty much the whole rehab. Like I had the surgery in the States, but I rehabbed at Dr. Fowler's clinic in London, like 3-4 days a week for basically 14 months before I got back into playing.
Yeah, I mean, just an absolutely brutal injury, and the fact that you were able to keep playing afterward is impressive in itself.
Yeah.
So
it was pretty much 2 out of my 3 years of my NHL contract with Boston, I was hurt.
right.
Like I played the 4 games up and the 12 in the A, and then it was like 2 years later. When I I was rehabbing and skating and practicing in Providence and in the AHL. And then the day after I got cleared by the doctors, they sent me down to the coast to Greenville. Cause I would play more down there or whatever. And, I know at first I was pretty pissed cause basically I was in Providence in the A for a year and a half. And then out of the blue, I got, hey, you're going to the coast. After, playing a bit in the show and 6 points and 7 fights and 12 games in the A, I thought it was a bit of a slap to the face. But whatever, it is what it is. And my first game down in Greenville on the coast, I got in a fight with the hell's this Sandy Lamar, I think was his name. I can't remember, but I hit him with a right and a switch, went to left hook and dropped him. And as I was putting him down to the ice, the two linesmen came skating in, obviously, because that's what refs do, right? To break it up and blah, blah, blah. And the one frickin' linesman stepped on a stick and slid on the ice and took my good knee out. So I blew my MCL on my good knee. My first game back after 14 months of rehab and no hockey.
That's just shitty luck.
Oh,
I mean, you just drop a guy, things are looking good, and then the ref comes in and
takes out my good knee. So that put me on the IR for like 3-4 weeks. And, at that point there was like, I don't know, 20 or 25 games left in the season, like 2 months worth of hockey. And after like a year and a half, 2 years of battling to get back on the ice, and then demotion to the coast, and then this injury, I was just like, fuck this. I want to get the season over with, kind of thing. And playing and point wise, I wasn't really connected. I just, I wanted the season done. So I just, every time somebody wanted to fight, I would fight. And, I kind of went through the motions. It was probably the lowest point of any of my playing career. I just didn't have any fire or jazz. And then that summer, just did more rehab and got a little bit stronger and bigger, and went back into I went back into Boston's camp. That would have been my third year. And then from there, I just basically got like released or whatever. I bounced around a couple of East Coast teams, but I had, I was having fun again playing, getting 20, 30 goals a year, 200 plus PIMs, and playing in some nice cities with some good players, and just having some fun.
Right. I mean, and that's what you want to, to be able to rebound and start having a good time again. Because that's what, I mean, everyone wants to play sports because they're having a good time. Nobody wants to be doing it just feeling like crap and being at a low. So you bounced around the coast, and you also played in the UHL and the IHL for a couple of years, which both of those leagues are no longer up and running. Were they pretty comparable to the coast and the AHL in, the skill level and all of that? Were they pretty much the same type of league?
Yeah, for sure. If you looked at some of the rosters on any of our U-Haul or IHL teams, even the ones I played on and against the teams that we played against, you have a lot of ex-NHL, AHL guys. And, it was very common that you might have like 5 guys that came from the coast or out of school, but pretty much it was older. Like you have your more established vets, right? League, I would put it, both those leagues would be in between the coast and the AHL as far as skill, only because the younger guys weren't as. In the coast, it's all young guys, right? So they're all like kamikazes and firecrackers flying all over the place. And then in the AHL, half your team is older guys, so they're established and all that kind of stuff. But they still have like half their roster young prospects, so it's still a faster game, a little bit more skilled, all that. And then like the U-Haul and the I, where I played, it was more 3/4 of your team were older, established guys that, are getting their mortgage paid and, $1,200 or some guys $1,500 a week, under their cap or whatever. But it was a good setup for us older guys, because, I mean, it's almost double or triple what you would have made in the coast, right?
Right. So, I mean, minor hockey is its own beast, obviously, compared to like minor pro. I mean, like compared to the A and the NHL. I've heard some pretty crazy, wild stories from guys, in more recent years. Do you have anything that happened to you while you were in the coast or the IHL, the UHL that's just, pretty wild, stands out in your mind? Something with a team or playing in a game, something that happened?
Well, we had lots. I mean, I could probably write a book and have chapters on, different shenanigans and stories, some that, would probably hurt some people's families and careers, but it happens. One story I do tell on podcasts and different interviews and stuff is, I wasn't shy to have some fun, regardless if it was at home, on the road, or night before a game or after a game, whatever. I always showed up to play and play hard, and I never took an easy way out. And sometimes it involved referees or coaches and all that kind of crazy stuff. I know after a few years in the coast and even into the U-Haul and the I, I used to get some refs that would send me a couple texts the night before the game whenever they got into the hotel. Zerzy, take me out. Let's go have some fun. That kind of stuff. In Providence, when I was in Providence, we used to, some of us younger guys, we used to hang out at a lot of the colleges there, obviously, because we were like 21, right? So a lot of the college, Brown University and Providence College and all that kind of stuff. So there was a couple nights too where we partied with some young college athletes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Which you guys weren't in college, but you're the same age. You're living the same lifestyle. You're just one step ahead of those guys who are playing college hockey or whatever.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, college guys know, or college people know, like, Tuesday night it's shooter night somewhere. Wednesday night it's like drink free, or dollar drinks, and Thursday it's, so for us guys that were young and had a little bit of money, that's where we wanted to hang or party, because A, it didn't cost much, and B, it was always slammed. And, it kept us youthful, and we would only have to wake up in the morning, have a coffee and a bite to eat on the way to the rink, practice for an hour, hour and a half, and then we could go home to bed for 5 hours.
Right.
Then you get up and you do it all over again, right?
Yeah, you guys knew where to go to find some people. You guys had a little bit different than having to go to class and do some exam, and then you got homework and all kinds of other crap. Like you said, you could take a nap and then
yeah,
do it again.
It's basically like we had 2 sleep patterns. We'd sleep for 2 to as many hours possible during the day, and the same thing at night, because some nights you get 6 to 8 hours of sleep and some nights you get 3.
Right. Just depend on what you were doing. So you have had 200 plus career fights throughout juniors and then your pro career. Do you have one or any that just really stick out in your mind? Ones that you just really clearly remember these fights?
I remember most of them. I was pretty good at, I wasn't like a killer or like a one punch knockout guy, but I had a pretty successful fight career, at all different levels, and, whoever I fought didn't really matter. Junior, I used to fight a guy named Jason Metcalf all the time. We hated each other in junior, and because of the London Erie, London Windsor rivalries, we'd play against each other like 12 times a year. So I know we used to fight all the time, shaking hands at the end of our junior career. I was in Sarnia, he was in London. We didn't shake hands. We kind of went by each other, and then words were said, and then we ended up fighting in the handshake line at the end of the series, and then turning pro against each other. And you're just eyeing each other up in warm up, because first shift against each other you're going to go and doing that, and then next thing you know, 2 years later you get traded to the same team. So walking into the dressing room, you're eyeing around the room trying to find it, and coming up to each other, and you're face to face in the room, and a couple guys are like, oh shit, what's going to go on here? And it's just like, hey, now we're teammates, let's go for some beers after practice. And Metter and I actually, we probably fought like, I don't know, maybe 20 times. We ended up becoming like best friends, and moving into each other's like place. We ended up living together for a year, and battling with each other rather than trying to knock each other's heads off.
Right. It's kind of funny how that works sometimes. The guy I had on the podcast last week, or I think it might have been 2 weeks ago, Eddie Matsushima, he had a guy who beat the piss out of him in juniors. And then when he got to college, that guy was on the same team, and they ended up being best buddies, and the guy's going to be his best man at his wedding. Same kind of deal,
Yeah, real.
Yeah,
it's like, it's a business and it's our role. And, some of us, like I could play too, right? Like pretty much a perennial 30 goal scorer, point a game guy, but I dropped 25, 30 fights a year.
Right.
Sometimes it was more so just for the fans or to, try and get some tail after the game. That's, you
Right.
put on a show, and that's how it is. And when you have, heavyweights or some tough guys on your team, obviously your balls swell, right? So you're playing with a bigger chip on your shoulder, and you can get away with a little bit more because the big guy or whoever is not going to come after you because I got two guys behind me that are bigger and better.
Right. You don't see that as much in fighting obviously has gone down in the league overall, but you still got your guys like Ryan Reeves and Delorier that are gonna, go at it. But you don't see those guys that are goal scorers as much that want to drop the gloves. I mean, Tkachuk does. I love watching Tkachuk.
Jamie
He's so
Benner's probably the best.
Oh yeah, definitely. But in recent years, and I think last year in the playoffs, Tkachuk just went ham on somebody and beat the absolute piss out of him. Yeah. And it's kind of nice to see a guy who's a 100 point getter who's not afraid to drop the gloves.
Yeah, like that's when I was in the OHL playing. That's like Keith Tkachuk, Brandon Shanahan, like Cam Neal, like fuck Bob Probert. Look at Probert's second year in the show. Guy had 29 points or 29 goals, 50 points, and 390 PIMs. Like if somebody scores 30 goals and a point a game in the show and has 200, 300 PIMs nowadays, that'd be 15 mil a year. Connie, that'd be the biggest contract in the league.
Yeah. You don't see it at all.
Over that 10, 15, 20 years, the game's changed so much where, now before it was you played hurt, you sucked it up, you broke your nose or jaw, you throw a fucking full cage on and get back out there. And, at three out of your four lines could score, play, but they also threw body checks. They would fight, they would do whatever. Now it's, you're lucky if you have one or two guys on per team that will drop the gloves.
Right. I mean, there's so many teams that don't have an enforcer. They have nobody. I'm a big Ducks guy, and last year when they traded Delorier away, there was that whole incident with Troy Terry and the Coyotes where Terry had to step in because there's literally nobody else who could fight, And I think it was, I don't know, Teemu Solani or somebody tweeted out, like, you can't build a team without some enforcers. Like, we need somebody like Ty Domi or we need an enforcer. You can't win hockey games.
Yeah.
Without an enforcer.
Yeah.
It's just not going to work. So many people want to change the game to that skill only. But, and I like the skill. It's fun to watch guys making the sweet moves and all that. But I think you need the fighting. It's been part of hockey forever.
It's like you need the meat and potatoes, the sandpaper guys. I don't know if you remember like 15, 20 years ago, whatever, Vancouver in regular season, like when Luongo is there and the Sedins and Naslin and all those guys, like those guys, they had like 300 point guys. Luongo was on fire. All that kind of, who was the big Swede defenseman that Oland, I think was those, like they were nasty regular season, but then you get them into playoffs, and playoff hockey is a different breed, man. It's like, it's way faster, more physical, and all those fancy point getter guys, they disappear, right?
Right,
and
exactly.
Always your ham and egg teams that go far or make it because they're used to playing hard and doing whatever it takes to keep winning.
Right, you can be flashy in the regular season and you can smoke people, but when you get in the playoffs, like you said, it's more grinded out hockey. It's a much tougher game, so you got to have that balance. And I feel like a lot of teams now are just trying to build purely skill-based teams, and it's not working. I mean, Ducks are a perfect example. They're horrible this year. They haven't even won a game in regulation. They're all overtime wins.
Yeah. They're young. They're in a rebuild. It's like up here, we're close to Toronto, and I have so many Toronto fans friends and family that are just Toronto. This year's the year. And I've been telling them for like 5-10 years, no, their defense is garbage.
Yep.
They're soft. They're all skill, questionable goaltending. And it's been all like forever. The last time Toronto has had a playoff team or a contender is like back when it was Gilmore, Clark, guys that threw the weight around, would fight, would bang, would, score goals, but they had nuts. They weren't afraid to bleed every game, regular season game, let alone playoffs. And that's when they made it to the semifinals.
Right, and like you said, the goaltending has been an issue. They didn't fix that this offseason, bringing in Murray. That wasn't the answer.
No, and same with their defense. Like Morgan Riley is a good D, but he's an offensive D. Like the rest, Muzzin's made of glass. Giordano is like my age; he's ancient.
Yeah.
Hole isn't. He's a 6 or a 7 D at best on any other team. Sandin is okay, but he's young and like frail, tiny. Like their defense is garbage.
Yeah, they're not built to make a deep run. It's the same thing with the Oilers, top heavy teams that aren't,
Yeah, that's the same thing. Like Austin Matthews is like he's a stud.
Yeah.
Marner can make sick passes and great setup guy. But then after that, it drops off the face of the earth. Like those guys can get away with not, bumping and grinding and using like Matthews. Guy makes $12 million a year and scores 60. Like you don't want him out bumping and grinding, but he should be.
Yeah, and he's big enough. He could be. He's got
big,
the size.
strong. Yeah, but it's just like you need more second, third liners that maybe aren't 60 goal scorers, but they're going to get you 15 to 20. And like the Leafs, they don't have that. It's like Willie Nylander, crazy amounts of skill, but guys softer than fucking baby shit.
Yeah, well, and that's why they're just going to keep being first round exits. I mean, it's just going to it's not going to change if they don't change their model. Eventually, you got to figure out that this isn't going to work. No. But
and that's like the last couple of years, like their toughness that they brought in are like Simmons and your Clifford and these type guys. They're not even like AHL guys could wipe them probably.
Right. I mean Simmons, he's an old man too. I mean,
yeah, like he's got long arms and he can battle and can take it, but like come on. There's like that Howe guy that's playing in the East Coast that's like a killer, just knocking people out left. He would eat a guy like Simmons up.
Right. But I mean, you'd think these teams would figure it out. Teams like the Maple Leafs, that they're not, it's not working. But after 5 years of first round exits, you wonder if they are going to figure it out. So going back to you, after your playing career, you purchased the London Lakers. What level was the Lakers at?
So about 9 years ago, I was hired actually first to become a head coach of a Tier 2 Junior A Lakers team in a league here in Ontario. And then a few months later, the ownership of that group, they owned like 9 teams across like 3 different leagues. And they decided it was time to sell all the teams and get out of the hockey business. So I took over ownership of it 9 years ago, and we did 8 years, 7 or 8 years, I can't remember, of Tier 2 Junior A. We had local talent. We had kids from 18 different countries that came and played for us. It was pretty much equivalent to like a Junior B or a Junior C program. But we practice like 4 days a week compared to like 2 days a week here. And then had a bit of a falling out this summer with the league and whatnot. And then we just decided that our business model, it was time to get into the age demographic here, where there's some good overage junior players that for whatever reason, never got a shot to go play semi-pro in the States or scholarship or to Europe, or they started school or career here. This 21 plus Super League, the WSHL, the WSHL. So this is the second year of the league. Last year it started with five teams. We were one of the 4 teams that they added this summer, so now we're at 9, and it's exciting. It's basically 21 plus. You have a lot of local talent on your teams, but then you also can bring ex-pros, ex-college, high-end junior Europeans, whatever you can play. Our rosters, we also have a point system, so like teams can't load up with just all ex-pro guys. Like you're depending on your collegiate level or junior level or pro level, you're on a point system, and you're only allowed to dress so many points per game. So it keeps parity in the league with amongst the teams. And we've had a bit of a struggle to start the year. I think we're like 3-6 or 3-7. But we have good attendance for practice and road games, and our coaching staff and our management and all that kind of stuff. We have faith in our players that, they just got to find themselves in the groove in the league. And once they believe in each other, kind of like how we believe in them, we'll start winning a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. You're the owner, the head coach, the GM, and you play all 4.
Yeah, I know I'm a sick bastard. I carded myself to play thinking that maybe some road games or the odd home game I would fill in. And we got off to like an 0-4 or 0-5 start. I can't remember. And I hate to fucking lose. And, I had some guys on our team that were just a little in between or wishy-washy. And here. Sorry, the dog's sniffing away over there. So yeah, I decided I would just, I practiced with them a little bit, and like jump in on the odd drill and that. And then I said, fuck it, I'm going to put my gear on and just show them, having patience with the puck and, when to jump, when not to, when to stand up for somebody, all that kind of stuff. So we've won a couple games now. I'm going to be 44 in a couple weeks. Like I'm getting up there in age. Like you said a couple times already, I have over like 250 fights. Like I don't need to be going out there playing with mid 20, early 30, maybe 5-10 years ago, I would have been all over it. But competitive juice is still flowing me. I hate to fucking lose. I hate being challenged, but you're being challenged by somebody with a bird cage and uses their stick rather than just throw the gloves down and huck, right? So that kind of bugged me a little bit. And yeah, I've played 4 games. I think I have like 6 assists, and I've been kicked out of 3 out of the 4 games. Oh, for inciting, trying to fight, or, somebody's sticking or chirping me, and I'll go up to them and spear them and be like, let's go to center ice, drop our gloves. And instead of the refs letting us go at it, they just turf us.
Oh, so
no, you can, but it's like, I don't know, maybe they're a little timid about it or whatever. I know this past Sunday we were losing like 5-1. We had a bit of a scrum in front of their net. One of my guys was kind of getting beat on by a guy or two, and maybe the goalie. So I went flying in there and kind of hit all 3 and started roughing it up with a guy, ripped off his bird cage, gave it to him a little bit. And there was like 12 or 14 minutes left in the third. I thought for sure we were just going to get like double minors or a 5 and just sit it out, right? But you end up getting like 12 minutes and penalties or 14, and they kick you out just because they don't want anything further to happen.
Well, that's pretty harsh,
Yeah.
You know, but so did you have a hard time? I mean, coming back and starting to play after such a long time of not playing some competitive hockey?
So it's been, I think Julie and I think we went back and looked. It's 14 years since I put my gear on. So like my gear, no word of a lie, has sat in my bag for 14 years. So there was a little bit of some mold on a few different pieces of equipment. I think there was some mice or rat shit in my bag. Some of my pants, like the foam and stuff, was chewed by like mice or rats. Like I shit you not. My skates are old as balls. Like my feet still hurt. um, After my first game, I was pretty wiped out. Like I was hovering a garbage can. Not gonna lie, it took me probably 5 days to be able to walk normal or to sit on the toilet properly. After my second game, my lungs and my body didn't feel that bad, but my legs were still garbage. After my third game, I think I was sore. My feet were sore for like a day, and then this past Sunday when I played, what's today? Wednesday? Tuesday? Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday.
So like my body, my feet, everything have been good for 2 days. So, um, the hockey, this I see plays like before they happen. A lot of my family and friends, and even Julie, she was with me. We first met or first started like our relationship my last year that I played pro. So she's seen me at like some of my best hockey, and then 14 years off, and now she's seen 4 games, and she's still in awe of how I see, like I legit see plays happen before they happen, right? So some of these guys at just junior level, like it's like hot potato with the puck, right? That's what I was saying earlier. Like I have confidence with the puck. I have patience. I see shit happen, and I know the way people move, and to sauce it or not sauce it or bank it off a net or a board or something that these guys don't even think of. I've done it a million times. So the playing part of it, even after 14 years, was a little rusty, but it's always there, right? It's more so the first game or two, it was my lungs. Like you're skating, and like it's the best cardio and workout ever is playing hockey. Like we have a full gym and stuff in the basement with like 6 different exercise cardio machines here at our place, and it's still nothing like skating. Um, my legs are okay, strong. It's just more so like my knees are shot, man. I played 9 years of pro, and I had 12 surgeries on my body,
Right.
4 or 5 just on my knees alone. I'm bone on bone. Like I'm sore. Um,
Well, you have
also,
every right to be sore.
yeah. And I'm also like, I think I played pro at like 205, maybe 210 pounds. But by the end of the season, I was like a buck 90, where now I'm 240 right now. And after a game, I go down to like 235, 230, like in water weight, but I put it back on. Like I'm playing like 20, 30 pounds heavier, and I'm 10, 15, 20 years older. So I could still play. It's just, I don't love the game. I like the game. You know what I mean? It's different.
Yeah.
It's different now, obviously, after having a 14-year hiatus, but that's why I never played for 14 years of any shinny hockey, no beer. Like I played nothing because I just wanted a break from playing, and now I played 4 games. I was just saying the other day on the couch, like I'm in between. I kind of have it back in me. It's never really gone. Playing again is kind of fun, but at the same time, like I'm an old man. I got to let the kids play.
Right, exactly. Well, like you were saying, I mean, it's like riding a bike, it's gonna come back to you once you start playing again. And then some of that stuff, it's just you can't teach that vision, like, knowing when a play is gonna happen. I mean, that's just you were a first round draft pick. Injury screwed up your career. I mean, I'm sure you thought about it, like what could have been, like the Bruins coach said, we'll send you back down. We hope to get you back up. You got injured before that could ever happen. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you sat around before and thought, well, what could my career have been if I never
Yeah.
blew out my knees? But you're gonna have that vision on the ice that a lot of these kids are never gonna have because you've played at the high level. You were in the show for a little bit. You played through the coast. You've got all that veteran experience that you just can't teach these kids.
Yeah. Well, and that's just it. Like I've had a lot of great coaches at all different levels, and that was like one thing that really stuck with me was you never want to be that guy at the bar or grocery store or wherever that says when somebody talks to you, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. There is things that on ice and off ice, if that situation would have happened again, I probably would have done something different and seen what kind of path that would have been. But there's also everything happens for a reason, and my life wouldn't be how or what it is, or I wouldn't have all the gray hair that I do have if I didn't go through, the shit that I either put myself in or I went through on and off the ice.
Right. I mean, everything you go through makes you who you are today.
Yeah.
One other thing, just mention here before we wrap up. You said that Sheriff Sean McMorrow, he was your first player that you signed, but he hasn't played a game with you guys yet.
No, so he's Sheriff he's been doing the ice war stuff and his master of ceremonies for that and his podcast and excuse me, he had a wrist injury at work that's kept him out for the last month and a half. And his plan is to go back to the Quebec League for a weekend or two to play for some team over there. So we've been trying to. He also lives like 2 hours away, so he's been skating and training and stuff back his neck of the woods. But he has been signed to us. It just hasn't worked health-wise for him to come skate or play with us. But he is coming this Sunday. He's going to be in our lineup because he wants to get a game or a few games in before he heads to Quebec. And in our league, we don't really pay anybody or compensate anybody in our league. That's, we're trying to get away from that kind of stuff, especially in like a 24-game schedule league. Where, as like in that Quebec league where he's going and stuff, they throw crazy amounts of cash and other shit around. So I don't blame the guy for wanting to go there to right.
Right. So how did you get him to sign with your team? Did you just call him up and say, "Hey, you want to come play some hockey?" Or
Yeah, well, we've kind of been talking back and forth just because I do a bunch of podcasts and talks and the hockey world and just being a brother who's battled before. Just reaching out and talking, and then talking got us into. We have a girl goalie on her team. She started a game, played awesome, and won. She's the first woman in a men's league in Canada that started and won a game. We have a lot of firsts with that. Having a new team, having a little bit of a social media presence, adding characters like the Sheriff and having him post and promote our team and wearing our swag and, his different stuff that he's been doing, like all that kind of shit adds up. Right.
Right.
Especially when we're in a little town where we don't have the local community support that we thought that we would have after 3 years. And not getting the local sponsors and all, it's been like fight or flight for us kind of thing in there. And, just having people that'll like Sheriff, that'll help us out. And we'll see what kind of draw we get with him coming in. And, he played some junior for Kitchener and London, and we're right in the middle of Kitchener and London. So we're hoping that with him in the lineup, we'll get another 100 or so fans and sell more beers and, hopefully win another game, and it gives them some ice time. And, our league and the team that we're playing against, he's not going to get challenged. He's not going to have to fight. It's, this is where he can actually go out, skate, play 10, 15 minutes, which he's probably never done since junior in a game, and, just try to have a little bit of fun and get sweaty and help the boys win.
Right. Hey, you can't ask for more than that.
No.
I see that he was just on Spittin' Chicklets.
Yeah.
Too. I'm gonna have to go listen to that one. I love Chicklets. They're hilarious.
I mean, those guys can say and do whatever they want, right? They have been there. Everybody wants a piece of that, that's the way that podcasts and all this kind of stuff work. It's like a stepping stone. You just got to keep going until you have like the Nelk Boys or Chicklets or somebody that is going to take a shot and sponsor or help you like network and get you into that kind of stuff, right? So
right.
Sheriff's got some good stories. He came down, he golfed with Julie and I, and him and his girlfriend. We did a couple golf tournaments together. We've had dinners, all that kind of stuff. We're mutual friends. We try to help each other out with our businesses and connections and all that kind of stuff, because you got to pay it forward and try to do good and help where you can.
Right, exactly. Well, I think that about wraps up what I think I had for us to talk about. So thanks for coming on this episode of the pod. It was great to talk to you.
Yes, thanks for having me. And if you ever need anything or you guys get some swag, I'll trade you some swag sometime.
All right, sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks very much.